Hi guys, and welcome to another video. Today I'll be sharing my thoughts on the anti-puncture tape that I recently installed as a lesser known solution to the multitude of punctures I've been getting on my endurance bike. I've been getting a puncture every 70 kilometers or so, and it's been driving me crazy. I decided that it's not yet time to throw the tires away because they still had plenty of life left in them, although they didn't have the best puncture protection, which I knew. So I was partly curious to try this and to see how it works. So here we are. Let's start with the advantages. One advantage of using anti-puncture tape is that it's very inexpensive and affordable. It costed me around 14 euros and it's very easy to install. You don't need to use any sealant and have it dripping everywhere. It's very dry and clean. Another advantage of using anti-puncture tape is the fact that you don't get any deflation. So when riding over sharp objects or debris, the sharp objects cannot penetrate the chamber in which the air is stored. In this case, it's the inner tube. This means you don't need to stop on the side of the road to top up with sealant or to reinflate the tire. It's great. It feels like I'm using a tank. Partly because the bike feels heavier, but the fact that I don't need to worry about deflation and I can just keep on cycling even on debris is really good. It gives you confidence and it does help. One of the disadvantages of using anti-puncture tape, however, is that it comes with a penalty in terms of rolling resistance of around 5 watts, which can be quite significant, especially on long rides. Rolling resistance is the energy lost when a tire rolls on surfaces. It's the force that resists the motion of wheels, making pedaling harder. The lowest resistance setup is obviously tubeless, because there's no friction between the tire and the tube. There is no tube. It's just the sealant liquid that sloshes around inside the tire. The fact that they don't have a tube inside means that you can run lower pressures. This in turn will offer you more grip and more comfort. The problem with tubeless setups, however, is that they tend to be quite expensive, with some tires costing around £60 each at the moment. Another disadvantage of this setup is that it can be quite messy with sealant dripping everywhere. They also require quite a bit of maintenance as well. Depending on the climate, you will need to top up the sealant or clean it and reinstall it altogether. Storage can also be a problem, especially in hot places like Spain, where the sealant inside the tires can solidify prematurely, especially if the bike is stored improperly, such as in the sunlight or in very hot places. The second most effective setup in terms of rolling resistance is the latex inner tube. I don't use these because they require very frequent top-up and they still are quite expensive. They are somewhere in between a butyl inner tube and a TPU one. Which brings me to my next point. In order to mitigate the higher rolling resistance that I have from the anti-puncture tape, I've decided to buy and use TPU inner tubes. These are significantly lighter and more compact than the standard butyl inner tubes, but they are also quite expensive. For example, a butyl inner tube will cost you around £5 or €5, €6, while a TPU inner tube will cost approximately £20 or euros, although the price has been decreasing in recent years. In terms of weight, the weight of a TPU inner tube is approximately 40 grams, with these ones weighing around 29 grams, even though they are not some of the expensive ones such as Pirelli. They are quite generic. While a butyl inner tube will weigh approximately 100 grams. This one weighs 105 on my kitchen scales. Another disadvantage of TPU inner tubes is that they are quite difficult to repair. So in case of a pinch flat or any sort of puncture, they will require special patches, which are more difficult to find and more expensive, of course. Another area in which these tubes excel is air retention, due to the material they're made of. If I haven't mentioned already, TPU stands for thermoplastic polyurethane. The fact that they retain air really well means that you can use them day to day. I would probably install them on my commuter bike because I don't use my endurance bike very frequently. However, I keep them on it to mitigate the added rolling resistance caused by the anti-puncture tape. To conclude, when paired with anti-puncture tape, this can be a very good way to reduce rolling resistance and weight in general. They make my setup faster. But I still think the best solution to endless punctures is a very good set of tires that offer low rolling resistance and very good puncture protection, such as Schwalbe Pro 1, Continental GP 5000, Hutchinson Blackbird, Pirelli P0 and Goodyear Eagle F1. For example, on Paula's bike I installed a pair of Continental GP 4000s. They were brand new, I just had them lying around and they've been fantastic. She hasn't had a puncture in many months. So yeah, I think they're definitely still very capable, even though they're not the latest anymore. And just a tiny thing to mention, if you're considering upgrading your inner tubes to TPU, make sure to check that they are compatible with your brake types, because some of them are not compatible with rim brakes, because rim brakes can generate excessive heat which can degrade TPU inner tubes. So yes, thank you for watching my video and don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you find our videos helpful. Happy riding!